The morning sun peeked through the blinds of the small apartment as the alarm clock buzzed relentlessly. Lily groaned and reached over to silence it. Another day, another shift at Sunrise Diner. She pulled herself out of bed, careful not to wake her 10-year-old daughter Zoe, who was still fast asleep in the bedroom they shared. Their apartment wasn't much, just a one-bedroom, with a pull-out couch in the living room where Lily slept, but it was home. Photos of Lily and Zoe at the beach, at the park, and celebrating birthdays lined the walls. A bookshelf overflowed with Zoe's school books and Lily's old culinary textbooks that she couldn't bring herself to part with. Lily showered quickly, the lukewarm water a reminder that the building's water heater was acting up again. She tied her hair back into a neat ponytail and put on her blue uniform with the sunshine patch sewn onto the pocket. The uniform had seen better days, much like the diner itself. "Mom?" Zoe's sleepy voice called from the bedroom doorway. She stood there in her cloud-patterned pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Morning, sunshine." Lily smiled. "I didn't mean to wake you. Go back to sleep for another hour before school." "Are you working the double shift again?" Zoe asked, already knowing the answer. Lily nodded. "Ms. Chen from next door will pick you up after school." "I left mac and cheese in the fridge for dinner. I should be home by 8. "That's what you said yesterday," Zoe pointed out. "You came home at 10. "I know, honey." Lily knelt down to her daughter's level. "But remember what we're saving for?" Zoe's face brightened. "Cooking school." "That's right. Just another year of saving and I'll finally finish my degree. Then no more double shifts, I promise." She pulled her daughter into a tight hug, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. After making Zoe breakfast and leaving lunch money on the counter, Lily rushed to catch the 6:15 bus. The ride to Sunrise Diner took 20 minutes, time she used to review the restaurant management chapters in her dog-eared textbook. 7 years ago, she'd been halfway through culinary school when she found out she was pregnant. With no family to help and the baby's father long gone, she'd had to drop out. But the dream never died, just got postponed. The bus wheezed to a stop in front of Sunrise Diner. The once charming roadside restaurant had been a town landmark for decades, but now its neon sign flickered inconsistently, and the blue paint was chipping from years of neglect. Located on the outskirts of what had once been a thriving factory town, the diner had seen a steady decline in business as plants closed and families moved away. Lily slipped through the back entrance, punching her time card exactly at 6:45 a.m. 15 minutes to set up before the morning rush. What passed for a rush these days? "Anyway, you're cutting it close," barked a voice from the office. Doug, the manager, peered out with his perpetual scowl. In his mid-40s, with thinning hair and a constantly loosened tie, Doug had been running the diner into the ground for the past 3 years. Rumor had it he was the nephew of the owner, who nobody had seen in ages. "I'm 15 minutes early, Doug," Lily replied evenly. She'd learned that engaging with his bad moods only made them worse. "Well, the coffee's not started and the morning bread delivery is sitting out back," he snapped, and someone called in sick again. "You'll need to cover sections 1 through 5 today." Without waiting for a response, Doug retreated into his office where he spent most days playing games on his phone and making the occasional call to cut food quality or staff hours. Lily got to work, brewing coffee, setting up stations, and helping the short-order cook, Tomas, prep for breakfast service. At 62, Thomas had been at Sunrise Diner for over 2 decades and was the only one who remembered the good old days when the place was packed and the owner, Mr. Reynolds, visited weekly. Another day in paradise, Thomas joked, his weathered hands expertly cracking eggs onto the grill. "If paradise has sticky floors and broken air conditioning," Lily smiled back. Despite everything, she and Thomas managed to maintain a sense of humor. They had to. It was either laugh or cry some days. The morning crowd was sparse, a few truck drivers passing through, a couple of retirees who came for the early bird special, and the occasional businessman grabbing coffee. Lily moved efficiently between tables, pouring refills, taking orders, and offering her warm smile to everyone. The customers were the bright spot in her day. She knew most of them by name and remembered their usual orders. "How's that little girl of yours?" asked Mr. Harrison, an elderly man who came for breakfast 3 times a week and always left a generous tip. "Growing too fast," Lily replied, setting down his usual order of scrambled eggs and wheat toast. "She's got a science fair coming up. Building a volcano. Smart like her mother." He nodded approvingly. You ever think about going back to that cooking school you mentioned? Every day, Lily admitted. I'm getting closer. Just need another year of saving. The morning passed in a blur of orders, refills, and wiping down tables. By lunchtime, Lily's feet were already aching, but she pushed through. The lunch crowd was thinner than usual, more evidence of the diner's decline. Around 1 o'clock, when things had quieted down, the bell above the door chimed. A middle-aged man Lily had never seen before walked in. He wore a simple button-down shirt and jeans that looked a bit too new, and carried a worn leather messenger bag. He chose a booth in Lily's section and sat facing the door. Welcome to Sunrise, Lily greeted him with a genuine smile. First time here? The man looked up, seeming slightly startled by her friendliness. Is it that obvious? Small town, she explained, setting down a menu and filling a water glass. I know most of the regulars, and you've got that new-in-town look about you. He chuckled. That obvious, huh? Name's Ray, just drove in yesterday looking for work. Well, Ray, I'm Lily. What brings you to our little corner of nowhere? Ray hesitated, as if carefully choosing his words. Heard there might be opportunities around here. I've got experience in restaurant management and was told this area has potential. Lily tried not to laugh. Restaurant management? In this town? The factory closed 2 years ago, and half the businesses went with it. The only place hiring is the gas station on the highway. That bad? He asked, studying her face. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, she said. What can I get you to eat? The Turkey Club is probably the safest bet today. Ray ordered the club sandwich and coffee. As Lily turned to place his order, she couldn't help but notice something odd about him. Despite his casual clothes and talk of job hunting, his posture was too straight, his hands too manicured for someone truly down on his luck. But who was she to judge? Times were tough for everyone. Throughout his meal, Ray asked questions about the town, the diner, and how long she'd been working there. Unlike most customers who barely looked up from their phones, he seemed genuinely interested in her answers. There was something almost familiar about him, though Lily was certain they'd never met. When the lunch rush ended, Doug emerged from his office long enough to criticize Lily for the water spots on glasses and to inform her that they were cutting corners again, this time on the quality of meat for the burgers. The customers won't notice, he insisted, and it'll save a few bucks a pound. They will notice, Doug, Lily argued. The Sullivan family already complained last week about the change in the fries. Well, maybe if you weren't spending so much time chatting up customers and actually served food faster, they wouldn't have time to notice. Doug snapped before retreating back to his office. Ray, who had lingered over his coffee, witnessed the exchange. When Lily returned to refill his cup, he said quietly, Tough boss, huh? Doug, Lily sighed. He's not even the owner. Mr. Reynolds, the actual owner, hasn't been around in years. Probably doesn't even know what's happening to this place. And what is happening? Ray asked, his eyes suddenly sharp with interest. Lily hesitated, then decided there was no harm in being honest. It's dying. Slowly but surely. Doug cuts costs wherever he can. Cheaper ingredients, fewer staff, no repairs or updates. The customers notice, they stop coming, and then he cuts more to make up for it. It's a downward spiral. That's a shame, Ray said, looking around the diner with a new intensity. Place like this could be something special with the right management. It was once, Lily said wistfully. Before I started, Mr. Reynolds ran this place like it was his home. Fresh ingredients, fair prices, treated the staff like family. Thomas, our cook, tells stories about those days. As the afternoon wore on, the diner remained quiet. Ray continued to sit in his booth, occasionally making notes in a small notebook. He ordered a slice of pie and asked Lily about her background. Before she knew it, Lily found herself telling this stranger about her interrupted culinary dreams, her daughter, and her hopes to someday finish her degree. There was something about Ray that made him easy to talk to, like he was really listening, not just being polite. You know, he said finally, closing his notebook, I think I'll be sticking around town for a few days. Any chance you could recommend a place to stay? The Pine Tree Motel is decent and affordable, Lily suggested. About a mile down the road. As Ray paid his bill and left a tip that made Lily's eyes widen, he smiled and said, I have a feeling things might be looking up for Sunrise Diner. And for you, Lily. She watched him leave, wondering what on earth he meant by that. Little did she know, the stranger in booth 7 was about to change everything. The next morning arrived with a steady drizzle that drummed against the windows of Lily's apartment. She hit snooze twice before finally dragging herself out of bed, muscles aching from yesterday's double shift. The smell of burnt toast pulled her fully awake. "Zoe?" she called, hurrying to the kitchen in her pajamas. Her daughter stood on a step stool by the toaster, carefully spreading peanut butter on blackened bread. "I made breakfast," she announced proudly. Lily's heart melted. "That's so sweet, honey. But you didn't have to do that. Ms. Chen says I should help more because you work too hard," Zoe explained, her tongue poking out in concentration as she cut the toast into triangles, just like Lily did for her. "Does she now?" Lily smiled, accepting the plate. She took a bite of the charred toast and made an exaggerated sound that made Zoe beam with pride. After dropping Zoe at school with a kiss and a reminder about the science homework they'd finished tonight, Lily headed to the diner. Today's morning sky matched her mood, gray but with hints of brightness at the edges. She clutched her umbrella in one hand and her bag of culinary textbooks in the other. Somehow talking to Ray yesterday had rekindled her determination to study whenever she could snatch a moment. To her surprise, when she arrived at Sunrise Diner, Ray was already there, sitting in the same booth as yesterday, nursing a cup of coffee. He waved when she entered. "Morning shift again?" he asked as she hung up her rain-soaked jacket in the back. "Every day this week," Lily replied, tying her apron. "What brings you back so soon? Don't tell me you're hooked on our world-famous turkey club already." Ray laughed, a warm sound that seemed to brighten the dreary diner. "Let's just say I'm doing some research on local businesses. This place interests me." Before Lily could question him further, the bell above the door jingled and 3 truck drivers came in, shaking rain from their caps. The morning rush had begun, such as it was these days. As Lily darted between tables, she noticed Ray watching everything. How she interacted with customers, how Thomas called out orders, how Doug barked instructions from his office doorway without actually helping. He scribbled in his notebook occasionally, expression thoughtful. During a brief lull, Ray waved Lily over. "I've been meaning to ask, is there any work around here? Even part-time would help while I look for something more permanent." Lily frowned. "Nothing at Sunrise, that's for sure. Doug's been cutting hours, not adding them. What about that factory everyone mentions? Closed 2 years ago. Almost 300 people lost their jobs overnight." Lily lowered her voice. "That's why this place is struggling. Half our regular customers moved away looking for work." Ray nodded slowly. "That explains a lot. What about you? Ever think of leaving?" The question caught Lily off guard. Of course she'd thought about it, dreamed about it on particularly tough days. But reality always pulled her back. "Can't," she said simply.
"Zoe's settled in school here."
"We've got cheap rent. I've saved almost enough for culinary school. Starting over somewhere else would set me back years." "Culinary school," Ray repeated. "You mentioned that yesterday. What would you do after graduating?" Lily glanced around to make sure Doug wasn't within earshot. "Open my own place. Nothing fancy, just good, honest food made with fresh ingredients. A place where families feel welcome and nobody cuts corners." "Sounds like you've given it a lot of thought." 7 years of thought," Lily admitted. "I've got a whole business plan written out. Even started looking at potential locations. There's an old bakery downtown that's been empty since Mrs. Wilson retired." "I'd like to see that business plan sometime," Ray said, his eyes twinkling with interest. Before Lily could respond, Doug shouted from across the diner, "Table 6 needs coffee. Less chatting, more working." Lily rolled her eyes apologetically and hurried back to work. Throughout the day, she noticed Ray talking to other customers, asking questions about the town, the diner, even about her. Mr. Harrison, the regular who always asked about Zoe, seemed particularly chatty with him. Around 1 o'clock, when Lily took her break, she found Ray outside, staring up at the faded Sunrise Diner sign. That used to light up at night, she told him, joining him under the awning. Neon tubes. Thomas says it was a beacon for travelers on the highway. The owner, Mr. Reynolds, would leave it on even after closing, just to guide people home. "Sounds like this Reynolds fellow really cared about the place," Ray remarked. "That's how the story goes. Haven't seen him in years, though. Some say he got sick and handed everything over to Doug. Others think he just gave up when the town started failing." Ray seemed to consider this. "Do you believe people can turn things around? Places like this town, I mean." Lily watched the rain puddle in the pothole-filled parking lot. "I have to believe it," she said finally. "Otherwise, what's the point of sticking around? What's the point of dreaming?" When her break ended, Lily returned to find Doug in a fouler mood than usual. The distributor had called. Prices were going up again, and he was threatening to switch to an even cheaper food supplier. The meatloaf already tastes like cardboard, Thomas muttered when Doug stormed back to his office. What's next? Serving actual cardboard? The afternoon crawled by. A few regulars came and went. Ray remained, occasionally typing on a laptop he'd brought, sometimes just watching the diner operations with that same thoughtful expression. Around 4, when Lily was refilling salt shakers, Ray approached her with a folded newspaper. I was looking at the job listings, he said, spreading the paper on the counter. Nothing much in town, like you said. But there's a new restaurant opening in the next county. They're hiring kitchen staff. Lily glanced at the ad. The pay was better than Sunrise, and they mentioned advancement opportunities. That's a 40-minute drive each way, she said reluctantly. I know, but they're looking for people with some culinary training. Might be a stepping stone. Something warm bloomed in Lily's chest. This stranger had actually taken time to find something that aligned with her dreams. Thanks, she said, genuinely touched. I'll think about it. I could help you update your resume, Ray offered. I used to do hiring at my last job. Before she could answer, the bell above the door rang and a family of 5 entered. Tourists, by the look of their matching t-shirts and cameras. Lily hurried to seat them, promising Ray they'd talk more later. The family turned out to be from California, passing through on a cross-country road trip. The mother was horrified when her youngest found a dead fly in the napkin dispenser, and Doug's half-hearted apology only made things worse. They left without ordering, the father muttering about leaving a bad review online. That's the 3rd walkout this week, Thomas sighed, watching them go. Pretty soon we'll be paying customers to eat here. By the time her shift ended at 7, Lily was exhausted. She'd promised Zoe she'd be home by 8, but a burst pipe in the women's restroom meant everyone was scrambling to mop up the mess while Doug called a cheap plumber who wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. Go, Ray said, appearing suddenly beside her as she wrung out a mop. Your daughter's waiting. I can't just leave this, Lily protested, though every muscle in her body begged to differ. Sure you can. You've been here since morning. The night shift can handle it. What night shift? Lily laughed bitterly. It's just Pete for closing, and he only does tables, not cleanup. Ray took the mop from her hands. Then I'll help. Consider it payment for all the free coffee refills. Lily hesitated, torn between responsibility to the diner and to her daughter. Doug would have a fit if he saw a customer mopping. Doug left 20 minutes ago, Thomas called from the kitchen. Said the plumber was his problem, not his. That settled it. Lily untied her apron and grabbed her bag. You really don't have to do this, she told Ray. I know, he said simply. Go home to Zoe. As Lily hurried to the bus stop, she couldn't shake the strange feeling that Ray wasn't just a curious traveler. There was something about the way he watched everything, the questions he asked, how he seemed to care about a failing diner in a dying town. It didn't add up. But her puzzling over the mysterious stranger was interrupted by the sight of her daughter waiting at their apartment window, face lighting up when she spotted Lily approaching. Whatever Ray's story was, it would have to wait. That evening, after dinner and homework, Lily sat at their tiny kitchen table with her culinary textbooks spread out. The job listing Ray had shown her kept coming to mind. Maybe it was time to take a risk. Mom, can you help me practice my science presentation? Zoe asked, clutching her poster board about volcanoes. Of course, sweetheart. Lily closed her books. Dreams could wait. Her daughter couldn't. Later, after Zoe was asleep, Lily pulled out her old resume and began updating it. Whatever Ray's reasons for helping her, the opportunity was worth exploring. The next morning, Lily arrived at the diner to find Ray already in his usual booth, this time with a stack of papers and his laptop. He waved her over immediately. I've been thinking about your situation, he said without preamble. What if there was another option? Something that wouldn't require a long commute or starting over? Lily raised an eyebrow as she filled his coffee cup.
In this town?
Unless you're about to tell me you're secretly a millionaire looking to invest in failing diners, I don't see many options. Ray smiled mysteriously. Let's just say I'm interested in potential, and I see a lot of it here. Before he could elaborate, Doug's voice cut through the morning quiet. Lily, stop bothering the customers and get to work. And tell Thomas his home fries are too greasy again. Duty calls? Lily sighed, heading back to the counter. Throughout her shift, She caught glimpses of Ray talking to Thomas during his break, showing him something on his laptop that made the old cook's eyes widen. Later, she spotted him examining the faded menus, the flickering lights, even the ancient cash register that sometimes ate dollar bills. By lunchtime, Lily couldn't contain her curiosity anymore. During a quiet moment, she slid into the booth across from Ray. "Okay, what's your deal? You're not just passing through, are you?" Ray closed his laptop and looked her directly in the eyes. "No," he admitted. "I'm not." "Then what are you doing here? Nobody spends 3 days in a rundown diner for fun." He seemed to be weighing his words carefully. "Let's just say I'm evaluating an investment opportunity, and I found something more valuable than I expected." Before Lily could press further, the bell above the door rang, and a rush of lunch customers poured in, more than she'd seen in weeks. As she hurried to seat them, she couldn't help wondering what Ray's cryptic words meant. But one thing was becoming clear. Whoever he was, Ray might be the most interesting thing to happen to Sunrise Diner in years. The rest of the week followed a similar pattern. Ray would arrive early, claim his usual booth, and spend hours observing the diner while typing notes on his laptop. He'd chat with regulars, study the menu, and occasionally disappear for phone calls that he took outside, regardless of the weather. What puzzled Lily most was how Doug seemed completely oblivious to Ray's constant presence. The manager barely glanced at the mysterious visitor, too busy complaining about costs and cutting corners to notice someone who might be evaluating the business. By Friday, Lily had updated her resume with Ray's help and even sent it to the restaurant in the next county. But her heart wasn't fully in it. Despite the diner's problems, she felt oddly hopeful something might change. Ray's presence had sparked that hope, though she couldn't explain why. "You've been smiling more," Thomas observed as they worked side by side during the morning rush. The elderly cook flipped pancakes with the ease of someone who'd done it thousands of times. "It's that fella in booth 7, isn't it?" "What? No," Lily protested, feeling her cheeks warm. "It's not like that," Thomas chuckled. "Not saying it's romance. Just saying he's got you thinking about possibilities again. I remember when you first started here, full of plans and ideas. Been a while since I've seen that spark." Before Lily could respond, the door to the kitchen swung open and Doug stormed in, face flushed with anger. "Who changed the coffee supplier order?" he demanded, waving a paper. Lily and Thomas exchanged confused looks. "Someone canceled our order with discount beans and placed a new one with mountain roasters," Doug continued. "That's triple the cost. We can't afford this." "Wasn't me," Thomas said, turning back to his grill. "I don't have access to the supplier accounts," Lily added. Doug's eyes narrowed. "Well, somebody did it, and I'm getting to the bottom of this. And until I do, both your checks are being docked to cover the difference." "You can't do that," Lily protested. "That's illegal." "You want to call a lawyer on your waitress salary?" "Be my guest," Doug sneered. "Otherwise, get back to work." As he stormed out, Lily felt her hands shaking with anger. Every month it was something new. Cut hours, cut benefits, and now cutting pay. She'd put up with it for Zoe's sake, for the stability, but everyone had a breaking point. "Don't do anything rash," Thomas warned, seeing the look on her face. "Remember your culinary school fund." The thought of her dreams being delayed yet again because of Doug's mismanagement made her blood boil. But Lily nodded stiffly and returned to the dining area. She nearly bumped into Ray, who was standing just outside the kitchen door. From his expression, he'd heard everything. "He can't dock your pay like that," Ray said quietly. "It's against labor laws." "Welcome to Sunrise Diner," Lily replied bitterly, "where the rules don't apply and the owner's never around to care." Ray's expression darkened. "This happens often?" "Often enough. Last month it was inventory shrinkage that came out of our checks. Before that, a broken dish fee. There's always something." For the first time since she'd met him, Ray looked genuinely angry. He opened his mouth to say something, then seemed to think better of it. "I need to make a phone call," he said instead, heading for the door. The morning dragged on. The coffee delivery arrived from the expensive supplier, and Doug made a show of refusing it until the driver mentioned that the order had been confirmed by Mr. Reynolds himself. That shut Doug up quickly, though his scowl deepened. Around 11, the diner's phone rang. Doug answered it in his office and moments later stormed out grabbing his coat. "Emergency with the food supplier," he snapped at Lily. "I'll be gone a few hours. Don't mess anything up." As soon as his car pulled away, the atmosphere in the diner lightened noticeably. Thomas started humming in the kitchen, and even the handful of customers seemed more relaxed. Ray returned shortly after Doug left, carrying a folder of papers and wearing a more formal button-up shirt than his usual casual attire. He caught Lily's eye and motioned her over. "I need to talk to you," he said, his tone serious. "When's your break?" "Not for another hour, and even then it's only 15 minutes with Doug gone." Ray glanced at his watch. "It'll have to do. I'll wait." The next hour crawled by. Lily found herself watching the clock, curiosity burning. Finally, her break time arrived, and she slipped into the seat across from Ray. "Okay, what's so important?" she asked. Ray slid the folder across the table. "I've been doing some research on Sunrise Diner. Its history, its potential, its current management situation." Lily frowned, opening the folder. Inside were printouts of sales records, property values, and what looked like a business assessment. "How did you get this?" "This is private company information." "It is," Ray agreed, "and I had every right to access it." Something in his tone made Lily look up sharply. "Who are you, really?" Ray took a deep breath. "My name is Raymond Reynolds. I own this diner." Lily stared at him, processing his words. "You're Mr. Reynolds? The owner? But everyone thinks you're sick? Retired, gave up?" He smiled wryly. "That's what my nephew Doug has been telling people, I gather." "Your nephew? So that part was true." Lily's mind raced, connecting dots. "But why are you here undercover? Why not just walk in and take charge?" Ray, or Mr. Reynolds, leaned back. 3 months ago, I got a concerning call from my accountant. Sunrise's profits were plummeting, yet the operating costs remained high. Something didn't add up. When I tried calling Doug, he gave me excuses. The economy, the factory closing, the usual. He gestured around the diner. So I decided to see for myself. I've spent the last 5 years expanding my restaurant group in the southern states. I left Doug in charge because he's family and needed a job. Clearly that was a mistake. Lily's break was nearly over, but she couldn't pull herself away. "So what happens now?" "That depends partly on you," Mr. Reynolds said. "I've seen how you work, how you care about this place and the customers. I've heard your ideas for improvement. I've even read that business plan you showed me yesterday." Lily's eyes widened. She'd shared her culinary school notes and business ideas with him, thinking he was just a friendly stranger. "I'm planning to make some changes," he continued. "Big ones. And I could use someone with your vision to help implement them." Before Lily could respond, the bell above the door rang. They both looked up to see Doug entering, his face like thunder. He stormed directly to their table. "What's going on here?" he demanded, glaring at Lily. "Taking extended breaks again?" "Actually, Doug, she's in a meeting with me," Mr. Reynolds said calmly. Doug scoffed. "Yeah, right. Look, buddy, whatever you're selling, we're not interested. And you," he turned to Lily, "get back to work before I dock another hour." Mr. Reynolds stood slowly. "Doug, I think you should take a seat. We need to talk about your management of my diner." Doug's face went from angry to confused. "Your diner? What are you talking about?" "Uncle Ray," Mr. Reynolds said pointedly. "Though it's been so long since you've seen me, I'm not surprised you don't recognize me." The color drained from Doug's face. His eyes darted between his uncle and Lily, understanding and panic setting in simultaneously. "Uncle Ray? But you were in Tennessee, Florida?" "Wherever you told the staff I was." Mr. Reynolds crossed his arms. "I've been here all week, seeing exactly how you've been running my business into the ground." Customers were turning to watch the confrontation. Thomas had emerged from the kitchen, dish towel in hand, eyes wide. "I can explain," Doug stammered. "The economy's been tough and—" "Save it," Mr. Reynolds cut him off. "I've seen the books. I've tasted the food. I've watched you mistreat your staff and lie to customers. There's nothing to explain." Doug's shock transformed back to anger. He pointed a trembling finger at Lily. "It was her, wasn't it? She's been feeding you lies about me."
She didn't have to say anything, Mr. Reynolds replied.
"I've seen it all myself." Doug's face contorted with rage. "You!" he snarled at Lily. "This is your fault. Always thinking you know better, with your culinary school nonsense and your fancy ideas." He reached across the table and grabbed Lily's order pad, flipping through it until he found the pages where she'd scribbled menu improvement ideas during slow periods. "Look at this," he shouted, waving the pad. "Planning to take over my job all along. Redesigning menus, changing suppliers, you've been undermining me." "That's not—" Lily started, but Doug was beyond reasoning. "You're fired," he shouted. "Pack your things and get out." Now the diner fell silent. Even the kitchen sound stopped as everyone watched. Lily felt as though she'd been punched in the stomach. Despite everything, she'd never actually believed Doug would fire her. She needed this job. Zoe needed her to have this job. "Doug, you don't have the authority to fire anyone anymore," Mr. Reynolds said quietly. But Doug wasn't listening. "Security deposit for your uniform comes out of your last check," he continued ranting. "And don't think I'll give you a reference after this betrayal." A terrible calm settled over Lily. 7 years of taking orders, of swallowing her ideas, of watching the diner deteriorate while her dreams gathered dust. It all crystallized into a moment of perfect clarity. She untied her apron slowly and placed it on the table. Then she looked Doug directly in the eyes. "You can't fire me," she said evenly. "I quit." With dignity she didn't entirely feel, Lily walked to the break room, collected her bag from her locker, and headed for the door. Customers watched in stunned silence. Mr. Harrison half rose from his seat as if to stop her. Thomas shook his head sadly. As she pushed open the door, she heard Mr. Reynolds call her name. She paused but didn't turn around. "Lily, wait. This isn't over," but it felt over. 7 years at the diner, gone in an instant. Her steady income gone. Her culinary school tuition, now out of reach again. What would she tell Zoe? "Be here tomorrow at 9 a.m., Mr. Reynolds said firmly. "We have things to discuss." Lily finally turned, confusion and hurt battling on her face. "I don't work here anymore." Mr. Reynolds smiled, the same mysterious smile he'd worn when they first met. "Trust me," he said. "Just be here at 9. Behind him, Doug was slumped in a booth, head in his hands as the reality of his situation sank in. The customers were whispering among themselves. Thomas had gone back to the kitchen, but the swing door was propped open so he could hear everything. Lily hesitated, then nodded once before stepping out into the afternoon sun, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life, or the best decision she'd ever made. Lily didn't tell Zoe what had happened at the diner. Instead, she pretended everything was normal, helping with homework and making dinner as usual. But after Zoe went to bed, Lily sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea gone cold, staring at her budget notebook. The numbers wouldn't add up no matter how she juggled them. Without her job at Sunrise, they had maybe 3 weeks before the rent came due again. Her culinary school savings could cover it, but that meant giving up the dream she'd worked toward for 7 years. The thought made her stomach knot. Her phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. "You okay?" "Crazy day. Boss man kicked Doug out. Closed diner early. Said important meeting tomorrow 9 a.m. You coming?" Lily stared at the message. Part of her wanted nothing to do with Sunrise Diner ever again. But another part, the part that had spent years dreaming of what the place could be, was fiercely curious about what Mr. Reynolds had planned. "I'll be there," she texted back, then added, "Did he really kick Doug out?" 3 dots appeared, then Thomas's reply. Took his keys. Said something about family disappointment and legal consequences. Doug left crying. Never seen nothing like it. Despite everything, Lily felt a twinge of sympathy for Doug. He'd been a terrible manager. But having your failures exposed so publicly by your own uncle must have been humiliating. She barely slept that night, tossing and turning as she replayed the day's events and wondered what tomorrow would bring. When her alarm went off at 7, she stared at the ceiling, debating whether to go back to sleep. What was the point of getting up early when she had nowhere to be? But Zoe needed to get to school, and Lily needed to show her daughter that life went on even when things got tough. So she dragged herself out of bed and started the morning routine. "Can we get ice cream after school today?" Zoe asked over breakfast. Lily hesitated. Every penny counted now, but she couldn't bear to start the belt tightening so soon. "Sure, sweetie. We'll celebrate Friday." "Celebrate what?" "New beginnings," Lily said with a confidence she didn't feel. After dropping Zoe at school, Lily stood at the bus stop, uncertain. The bus that would take her to Sunrise Diner approached, and on impulse she boarded it. She'd told Thomas she'd be there, and despite everything, she wasn't one to break a promise. The diner looked different somehow as she approached. Maybe it was the early morning light, or maybe it was knowing she no longer worked there. But Lily noticed details she'd overlooked before. The faded paint around the windows, the crooked S in the Sunrise sign, the cracked concrete of the walkway. Yet something was different. The windows gleamed, freshly washed. The usually overflowing trash bin by the entrance was empty and clean. And parked in the lot were several vehicles she didn't recognize, including a van with professional cleaning services painted on the side. Taking a deep breath, Lily pushed open the door. The bell jingled as always, but the scene inside was anything but normal. The diner was empty of customers but full of activity. A team in matching polo shirts was scrubbing down booths. Another crew was carefully removing the old stained ceiling tiles. Thomas stood near the counter, talking animatedly with Mr. Reynolds and a woman in a business suit who was taking notes on a tablet. They all looked up when Lily entered. Thomas waved enthusiastically. "Right on time," Mr. Reynolds said, checking his watch. "I was counting on your punctuality." "What's happening?" Lily asked, looking around in confusion. "Phase 1 of Operation Sunrise 2.0, he replied with a grin. "First deep clean in what looks like a decade based on what we found behind the refrigerator." The woman with the tablet stepped forward, extending her hand. "You must be Lily. I'm Anna, Director of Operations for Reynolds Restaurant Group. Ray has told me all about you." Lily shook her hand automatically, still trying to process everything. "Reynolds Restaurant Group?" "My company," Mr. Reynolds explained. "We own and operate 27 restaurants across 5 states. Sunrise was my first, though, and it's remained close to my heart, even when I wasn't around to care for it properly." He gestured for Lily to follow him to a booth where blueprints and design sketches were spread out. "I've been planning a renovation for months, ever since the numbers started looking suspicious. That's why I came in person, not just to check on Doug, but to see if this place was worth saving." "And is it?" Lily asked, afraid to hope. "The building needs work," Mr. Reynolds admitted. "A lot of work. But a restaurant isn't just walls and equipment. It's the people." He looked at her meaningfully. "And that's where Sunrise still shines." Anna tapped on her tablet and turned it to show Lily. "We've drafted a revival plan. 4 weeks of renovation, new equipment, updated menu, community outreach, the works. We're calling it a soft relaunch." "Sounds expensive," Lily commented, wondering where she fit into all this. "It's an investment," Mr. Reynolds corrected. "One I should have made years ago instead of leaving everything to Doug." The mention of his nephew dimmed his enthusiasm momentarily. "I should explain about Doug. He's my sister's son, always struggled to find his place. I gave him this job thinking he just needed a chance to prove himself. I was wrong, and many people paid the price for my mistake, you included." Lily wasn't sure how to respond. Part of her was still angry, not just at Doug, but at Mr. Reynolds for his long absence. As if reading her thoughts, he continued, "I know I've been absent. Expanding the business took all my focus, and I convinced myself that no news was good news. By the time the financial red flags appeared, the damage was severe." "What happens to the staff during renovation?" Lily asked, thinking practically. "Thomas, Pete, the others?" "Paid leave for 4 weeks with the option to help with the remodel for extra hours," Anna replied promptly. "Everyone gets first right of refusal to return to their positions when we reopen, with proper training and adjusted wages, of course." "Adjusted upward," Mr. Reynolds clarified with a smile. "And Doug?" Lily couldn't help asking. Mr. Reynolds sighed. "He's out of the restaurant business permanently. I've arranged a position for him in our corporate office in accounting where his attention to cutting costs might be useful when properly supervised. He'll be relocated to our headquarters in Nashville." Thomas joined them, practically bouncing with excitement. "Have they told you the big news yet?" "We were just getting to that," Mr. Reynolds said. "Lily, this renovation isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about realizing potential, the diner's and yours." He pulled out a chair for her. "I'd like to offer you the position of general manager of the new Sunrise Diner." Lily sat down abruptly, certain she'd misheard. "General manager, me? I've read your business plan, remember?" Mr. Reynolds reminded her. "Your ideas for local sourcing, for menu updates, for community involvement, they align perfectly with our company values. You know this town, you know the customers, and most importantly, you care about making this place special." "But I don't have management experience," Lily protested. "Or a culinary degree. Experience can be gained. As for the degree," he exchanged looks with Anna, who nodded encouragingly. "Part of your compensation package would include tuition assistance to complete your culinary education. We have a partnership program with several schools that offer weekend and evening classes." Lily's head spun. It was too much to take in. "Why me?" Why not bring in someone from one of your other restaurants? Because you never gave up, Mr. Reynolds said simply. Even when things were at their worst, you kept thinking of ways to make this place better. That kind of dedication and vision can't be taught. He slid a contract across the table. The position comes with a significant raise, health benefits, retirement plan, and as Anna mentioned, tuition assistance. Take time to read it, think about it, discuss it with your daughter. Lily stared at the contract, her vision blurring slightly. Was this really happening? Thomas squeezed her shoulder. Say yes, boss lady. Who else is gonna let an old man keep cooking his way? A knock at the door interrupted them. A delivery person stood outside with a massive arrangement of flowers. Anna went to accept them. The first deliveries are already starting, Mr. Reynolds said, checking his watch again. Contractors will be here within the hour to assess the electrical and plumbing. We've got a lot to do in 4 weeks. I haven't said yes yet, Lily pointed out, though her heart was already racing with possibilities. You will, Mr. Reynolds said confidently, but there's no rush. Take the weekend to think it over. Anna returned with the flowers in a small package. These just arrived for you, Ray. Mr. Reynolds opened the package and smiled. He held up a shiny new neon tube glowing bright orange. The first piece of the new sign. I thought we'd start with the S in Sunrise. Symbolic, don't you think? As they talked through more details of the renovation, Lily found herself swept up in the excitement. Her own ideas she'd scribbled in margins and dreamed about during bus rides, were being taken seriously. Expanded upon, improved with professional expertise. By noon, the diner had transformed into a bustling planning center. Contractors measured and discussed, cleaning crews scrubbed years of neglect away, and delivery trucks brought the first supplies for the remodel. Mr. Reynolds introduced Lily to everyone as our new manager, despite her protests that she hadn't officially accepted. When it was time to pick up Zoe from school, Lily reluctantly prepared to leave. One more thing before you go, Mr. Reynolds said, leading her to the kitchen where Thomas was inventorying equipment with the renovation team. I want you to have something. He reached under the counter and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside was an old brass key on a faded leather keychain shaped like a coffee cup. The original key to Sunrise, he explained. My father gave it to me when I took over in '95. I think it's time for a new keeper. Lily stared at the key, understanding the weight of what it represented. I haven't said yes, she reminded him again, but her voice was weaker this time. Think of it as holding it in trust then, Mr. Reynolds replied. Until you decide. As Lily left the diner, key tucked safely in her pocket, she felt lighter than she had in years. The bus ride to Zoe's school passed in a blur of mental calculations and possibilities. Could she really do this? Run a restaurant? Go back to school? Give Zoe the stable life she deserved? Zoe was waiting at the school gate, talking animatedly with her teacher. When she saw Lily, she came running. Mom, Ms. Chen says I got an A+ on my volcano project. Can we get extra sprinkles on our ice cream to celebrate?
Absolutely, Lily laughed, hugging her daughter tight.
In fact, we have more than one thing to celebrate today. As they walked to the ice cream shop, Lily carefully explained what had happened at the diner, simplifying the dramatic events into terms Zoe could understand. So you might be the boss now? Zoe asked, eyes wide with amazement. Like the real boss who can tell everyone what to do? Something like that, Lily smiled. But being a boss isn't just about telling people what to do. It's about helping everyone work together to make something special. Zoe licked her ice cream thoughtfully. Like how you help me with my homework, but I still have to do the work myself. Exactly like that, Lily said, impressed by her daughter's insight. What do you think? Should I take the job? Zoe didn't hesitate. Yes. Then maybe we can put my volcano in the diner so everyone can see it. Lily laughed, warmth spreading through her chest. Out of all the exciting possibilities the day had brought, seeing her daughter's pride was the most precious. That evening, after Zoe went to bed, Lily sat at the kitchen table again. But this time, instead of a budget notebook filled with impossible math, she spread out the contract Mr. Reynolds had given her. She read every word carefully, barely believing what was being offered. The key sat beside the contract, catching the light from the overhead lamp. Lily picked it up, feeling its weight in her palm. It was more than a key to a building. It was a key to the future she'd almost stopped believing was possible. She reached for her phone and typed a simple message to Mr. Reynolds. I'll see you Monday morning. We have a diner to rebuild. 4 weeks flew by in a whirlwind of activity. Each day brought new challenges and triumphs as the old Sunrise Diner transformed before Lily's eyes. She threw herself into the renovation with everything she had, arriving early and staying late, learning the business side of restaurants from Mr. Reynolds and Anna, while adding her own touches to the revival plan. The building was gutted to its bones and rebuilt with care. New wiring, new plumbing, new kitchen equipment that made Thomas nearly weep with joy when it was installed. The dining area was expanded by removing a storage closet that had been mostly filled with junk. The dingy yellow walls were painted a warm cream color, with a stunning mural of a sunrise over the town's landscape, covering one entire wall, painted by a local artist Lily had gone to high school with. Zoe spent her afternoons at the diner after school, doing homework in a booth and offering opinions on everything from menu items to the color of the new staff uniforms. The renovation team adopted her as their unofficial mascot, and she basked in the attention, proudly telling everyone that her mom was going to be the boss. On the night before the grand reopening, Lily stood in the middle of the empty diner, taking it all in. The gleaming countertops, the comfortable booths, the state-of-the-art kitchen, and most impressive of all, the restored neon sign that once again cast a warm glow across the parking lot. "What do you think?" Mr. Reynolds asked, coming to stand beside her. Over the past month, he'd become more than a boss. He was a mentor, sometimes a friend, and occasionally a challenging teacher when Lily needed to learn tough business lessons. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "I can hardly believe it's the same place." "It isn't," he replied. "It's better." "And do you know why?" Lily shook her head. "Because now it has a heart again," he said, gesturing around. "Every decision you made in this renovation came from caring about the food, the staff, the customers, the community. That's what my father understood when he opened this place 50 years ago, and what I forgot somewhere along the way." He pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. A small token for the grand reopening tomorrow. Lily opened it to find a name tag that read, Lily, General Manager, and underneath, in smaller letters, Co-owner. She looked up in shock. Co-owner? But the contract was for manager position. "I've amended it," Mr. Reynolds said simply. 10% ownership now, with options to increase over time. "I've watched you this past month, Lily. You don't just work here, you belong here. This place is part of you and you're part of it." Lily couldn't find words, so she just hugged him instead. When they broke apart, both were a little misty-eyed. "Now go home and get some sleep," he ordered with mock sternness. "Tomorrow's going to be a big day." Lily could hardly sleep that night. She kept going over checklists in her head, worrying about everything that could go wrong. What if nobody came? What if they didn't like the new menu? What if she wasn't ready for this responsibility after all? Zoe found her at the kitchen table at 5 in the morning, nursing a cup of tea and reviewing the opening day plan for the 20th time. "Mom, did you sleep at all?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. "A little," Lily fibbed. "Just excited about today." Zoe climbed onto her lap, still small enough at 10 to curl up there. "You're gonna be great," she said, with the absolute confidence only children can muster. "Everyone's gonna love it because you made it, and you make the best everything." Lily hugged her daughter tight, drawing strength from her unshakable faith. "When did you get so smart?" "I had a good teacher," Zoe grinned. They arrived at the diner at 7, 2 hours before opening time. To Lily's surprise, there was already a small crowd gathered in the parking lot. Mr. Harrison was there along with several other regulars. The local newspaper had sent a photographer, and most shocking of all, a television van from the regional news station was setting up equipment. "What's all this?" Lily asked Anna, who was already inside reviewing final details. "Ray pulled some strings," Anna explained with a smile. "Called in favors with media contacts. He wants today to be special." And special it was. The reopening of Sunrise Diner became the event of the year in their small town. By the time they unlocked the doors at 9, the crowd had swelled to over 100 people. Everyone eager to see the transformation and taste the new menu that blended classic diner favorites with fresh, locally sourced ingredients. Lily moved through the busy dining room in her new uniform, a crisp blue button-up with the Sunrise logo embroidered in orange and yellow, greeting customers, solving minor crises, and directing her staff with a confidence that surprised even herself. Many of the original employees had returned, along with several new hires from town. They worked together like a well-oiled machine, guided by the training Anna had provided and Lily's natural leadership. Thomas reigned supreme in his shiny new kitchen, happier than anyone had seen him in years. "This is how it used to be," he kept saying to anyone who would listen. "This is how a real diner should feel." The local newspaper reporter cornered Lily for an interview during a brief lull. "People are calling this a miraculous turnaround," she said, notepad ready. "What's your secret?" Lily thought for a moment. "No secret, really. Just caring enough to do things right. Good food made with love, served in a place where everyone feels welcome. That's always been the heart of Sunrise Diner. We just needed to remember it." By closing time, they had served over 300 customers, sold out of Thomas's famous apple pie, and received dozens of congratulations. Exhausted but elated, the staff gathered for a celebratory toast with sparkling cider. "To Sunrise 2.0, Mr. Reynolds proposed, raising his glass. "And to the woman who made it possible, our new co-owner and manager, Lily." Everyone cheered, and Lily felt her cheeks flush with a mix of embarrassment and pride. This moment, surrounded by her work family, with Zoe beaming at her side, felt like the culmination of a journey she hadn't even realized she was on until recently. After the staff left and the cleanup was complete, Lily found herself alone in the diner with Mr. Reynolds. "I have something for you," she said, pulling a wrapped package from under the counter. Mr. Reynolds opened it curiously, finding a framed photograph inside. It was a black and white picture of the original Sunrise Diner from the 1970s, with his father standing proudly in front. Lily had found it in a box of memorabilia during the renovation. "I thought it should have a place of honor," she explained, "to remember where we came from." He nodded, clearly moved. "I'll hang it tomorrow." He checked his watch. "Speaking of tomorrow, I should let you lock up." "It's your diner now, after all. You're leaving?" Lily asked, surprised, just temporarily. "I need to check on our other locations, and you don't need me hovering over your shoulder. I'll be back in a month to see how things are going, but I have complete confidence in you." After he left, Lily took her time closing up. She wiped down already clean counters, adjusted chairs that were perfectly straight, and finally stood at the front windows, looking out at the glowing sign that once again served as a beacon in the night. She thought about how much had changed in just a month. From being fired and fearing for their future, to standing here as co-owner and manager. It seemed impossible, yet here she was, key in hand, dreams no longer deferred. The next 6 months exceeded everyone's expectations. The renovated Sunrise Diner became a destination, drawing customers from neighboring towns. The business not only recovered but thrived, with profits doubling by the end of the first quarter. Lily implemented a training program for single parents looking to enter the restaurant industry, remembering her own struggles and wanting to create opportunities for others. True to his word, Mr. Reynolds arranged for Lily to attend weekend culinary courses at the community college in the next town over. Balancing classes, her management duties, and motherhood was challenging, but Lily found she had more energy than ever before. Purpose and passion fueled her in a way that mere survival never could. 1 year after the grand reopening, on a crisp autumn morning much like the day Ray had first walked into her section, Lily arrived at the diner to find a special delivery waiting, her framed culinary school diploma, which Mr. Reynolds had rushed from the framers to surprise her on graduation day. She hung it proudly in her office, next to the photograph of the original diner and a newer one taken on reopening day, showing the entire staff lined up under the restored neon sign. Later that morning, as Lily made her rounds through the busy dining room, she paused at table 7, the booth where Ray had sat during his Undercover days. A young woman was there now, nursing a cup of coffee and scribbling notes on a pad while checking her watch repeatedly. "First time here?" Lily asked, refilling her cup. The woman looked up, startled by the friendly attention. "Is it that obvious?" "Small town," Lily replied with a smile, remembering her own words from a year ago. "I know most of the regulars. I'm just passing through," the woman explained, "trying to figure out my next move. Lost my job last week and I'm not sure what's next." Lily studied her for a moment, recognizing something of herself in the woman's uncertain expression. "Well, you picked a good place to think. The coffee refills are free and—" She hesitated, then added, "We're actually looking for someone to train as an assistant manager. I could use the help now that I'm expanding our catering business." The woman's eyes widened. "Really? Just like that? You don't even know me." "Sometimes you can just tell when someone has potential," Lily said with a wink. "Besides, everyone deserves a second chance." I'm living proof of that. As she walked away, Lily caught her reflection in the polished surface of the coffee machine. No longer a waitress dreaming of something more, but a woman who had found her place in the world. The key to sunrise hung from her belt loop, not just opening the doors to a building, but to all the possibilities that came from believing in yourself and recognizing the potential in others. Some might call what happened to her luck, or fate, or being in the right place at the right time. But Lily knew better. It was about seeing value where others saw only problems, and having the courage to imagine something better, for a struggling diner, for a small town, and for herself.